Al Capone wasn't just a gangster. He was a businessman, and he operated in one of the most profitable industries in American history on industry. Created not by the free market, but by government policy. Prohibition didn't just outlaw alcohol. It manufactured a market, erased legal competition, and handed the supply chain to whoever was bold enough to take it. This turned ordinary criminals into multimillionaires, corrupted entire cities, and proved a timeless rule of economics. When lawmakers ignore demand, someone else will supply it. When the 18th Amendment went into effect in 1920, the government sold it as a moral crusade. They said alcohol was the source of crime and poverty. Eliminate it, and society would clean itself up. But this was a political promise, not an economic reality. The demand for alcohol didn't just vanish. In many places, it grew. And where there's demand with no legal supply, the price skyrockets. That gap between law and reality was where Al Capone built his empire. Born to poor immigrants, Capone was embedded in organized crime by his early 20s. But Chicago during Prohibition wasn't just a city of opportunity, it was the epicenter of an economic revolution. Liquor was the new oil, and Capone, with his talent for organization and ruthlessness, was perfectly positioned to dominate. His operation wasn't a small-time gang. It was a vertically integrated enterprise that would make a modern CEO proud. He controlled breweries, distilleries, import routes, and distribution networks. His product flowed into hundreds of speakeasies underground bars each, paying for a steady supply. His organization earned an estimated $100 million a year in 1920s money. That's roughly $1.5 billion today. Capone wasn't just making money. He was laundering it. He invested in restaurants, nightclubs, and other cash-heavy businesses to mask the origins of his wealth. Bribes ensured protection from law enforcement. Politicians looked the other way. In a city where half the economy was underground, Capone wasn't just an outlaw, he was an employer and a patron. His key to success wasn't just violence, but management of risk. He understood that prohibition was both his opportunity and his vulnerability. The day alcohol became legal again, his massive profits would vanish. Here's what made it so powerful. Before Prohibition, alcohol was a low-margin commodity. But once it was outlawed, every risk in the supply chain added a markup. Bribes for police, payments to drivers, fees to middlemen. The price of liquor skyrocketed, and consumers still paid. The demand was inelastic. Capone saw what lawmakers didn't. Prohibition wasn't stopping crime. It was industrializing it. His empire worked like a corporation without legal limits. It had vertical integration, market control, and brand reputation. But it was all built on a market that was artificially constrained. Every bottle was a premium product, not because of its quality, but because of its risk. This also created a financial ecosystem of corruption. Capone's money flowed to police officers, judges, and city officials. Corruption wasn't a side effect. It was the operating system. When the legal system depends on illicit money, enforcement is never about the law. It becomes about the price. Yet power built on policy is always vulnerable to policy change. The Great Depression changed everything. Tax revenue from legal alcohol suddenly looked very appealing. The government couldn't convict Capone for bootlegging, but they could go after something else. Taxes. In 1931, he was convicted of income tax evasion. His downfall wasn't a shootout. It was paperwork. By 1933, Prohibition was repealed. The market that made Capone a billionaire evaporated overnight. But here's the lesson. Prohibition failed because the economics were too powerful. Demand didn't care about the law. Supply adapted. The profits were too large to suppress. Fast forward to today, and the mechanics haven't changed. Look at cannabis. For decades, it was a multi-billion-dollar underground market. Enforcement never eliminated it. Now, as legalization spreads, profits shift to corporations and taxes flow to governments. The economics are identical to Prohibition. The same dynamic is visible everywhere in industries shaped by sanctions, energy policy, and environmental regulation. When governments restrict supply, they don't erase markets, they redirect them. Someone always steps in to fill the gap. The real takeaway from Capone's story isn't about crime. It's about the intersection of law, money, and opportunity. Markets are never truly free. They're shaped by policy. Scarcity, whether natural or artificial, creates opportunity. And policy-driven markets have built-in volatility. Just as Prohibition ended, so can today's profitable restrictions. Capone's empire rose because he understood his environment. It fell because the environment changed. The cycle of policy, scarcity, and profit never stopped. History has the answers, Zoo. Just have to know where to look. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe for more.